So once again, welcome to the review videos for Shaughnessy's class. As a full disclaimer, and I'm going to sneeze, so I apologize. I'm going to pause it. Sorry about that. As a disclaimer, these are no substitute for being in class every day, so please make sure you're coming to class. There are more explanations and more examples there. Continuing on, we're almost done rational expressions. Long story short, we've been trying to solve rational expressions. We've been trying to solve equations with them. We've added, subtracted, multiplied, divided, reduced, stated non-permissible values. Now we're on to using them to solve problems. And the other day there was a worksheet where you had to go and try to fill in the table and stuff like that. And so hopefully that's making sense, because I'm building on this right now. So in these sorts of problems, it's kind of split up into different spots, but nonetheless it's the same idea. You have to read the equations, or read the question, you have to interpret it into the table. Because of that, then you have to figure out the equation, and because of that, now you have to solve it. That's the only difference between what we were doing before and what we're doing now. We're using that equation to figure out what x was. So if I look at this one, Evan drove 340 kilometers in the same time that Darren drove 360. So I know the times for those two distances are the same. Darren's average speed, because he drove a little bit further, so you know he's faster. Darren's average speed was 6 kilometers per hour faster than Evan's. So I've got Darren and I've got Evan. Okay, doesn't matter what order I do them in here, but Evan and Darren. Evan drove 340, so I know that's his distance. Darren drove 360. I know that's his distance. Okay, continuing on, the speed. Well, I know Darren's average speed was 6 faster than Evan's. So if Evan's was x, Darren's is 6 plus x, or x plus 6. So once I've got that, then I remember from before, time equals distance over speed. So this time here is going to be this distance, 340, over that speed, x. This time is going to be this distance, 360, over that time, x plus 6. So I end up with that. Now, I filled out the table. Hopefully that makes sense. When it comes to b, I'm determining the equation. I have to go back maybe and read it again. And that's where I go here. Evan drove 340 in the same time, so same time. So I know that the times are the same. So if the times are the same, I know that 340 over x has to equal 360 over x plus 6. There's my equation. So done, I've got the equation. C, how fast did Darren drive? Well, x is the speed that Evan drove. I'm going to find x. What I have to do afterwards, though, is I have to remember to add 6 because it wants to know Darren's speed. However, I'm going to kind of keep going with that. How fast did Darren drive? Okay, so I know 340 over x, and I'm just rewriting it. 340 over x equals 360 over x plus 6. Non-permissible values, I should state them. They're not going to be necessary here. But out of here, out of this rational expression, I get x cannot equal 0. Out of this rational expression, I get x plus 6 cannot equal 0. So x cannot be negative 6. So basically what this is telling me is Evan is not 0. He's not going 0 kilometers an hour. So he's not moving, which I knew that because he wouldn't be able to get 340 kilometers per hour, 340 kilometers, sorry, if he wasn't moving. The other thing is he can't be moving backwards at negative 6. Speed of negative 6 doesn't make any sense unless you get into vectors, physics 20, I get that, but right now we're just talking speed. So nonetheless I've got those NPVs, but they're not necessary. You need to state them though. Lowest common denominator, there's an x and an x plus 6. You get to take your pick as to whether you want to use the mystical magical or whether you just want to multiply the numerators. I'm going to multiply the numerators, so I'm going to get x times x plus 6 there and x times x plus 6 there. Here the x's cancel, I'm going to scribble them out. Here the x plus 6 cancels, I'm going to scribble it out. And what I'm going to get is 340 times x plus 6 equals 360x. Multiplying that 340 in, I'm going to get 340x plus, and it's 6 times 340. I'm heading to my calculator just to do that math. 2040 equals 360x. I've got to pick a side, so I'm going to take and move the x's over. So I'm going to subtract 340x. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So I'm going to get 2040. 360 minus 340 is 20x. Divide by 20, and I'm going to get that x is 102 kilometers per hour. Now, that's what x is. X is 102. This speed is 102. So I can now go off and say that x is 102. Evan drove 102. How fast did Darren drive? 6 faster. So how fast did Darren drive? I've got to remember that I've got to take that and add 6. Darren drove 108 kilometers per hour. Okay? So once that's said and done, now I go off and answer the other questions. How fast did Evan drive? Hey, I actually just solved for this. I could have put them in the opposite order, but I didn't deliberately. So this one here, Evan drove 102 kilometers per hour. I figured that out first. Okay? So I'm said and done. How long did each trip take? Well, the trip, I know they're the same. So 340 over x or 360 over x plus 6, these two times are the same. So you get to pick one. Which one do you want to use? I want to use the 340 over x because it's easier. So the time is going to be 340 over x, which is 340 over 102 kilometers an hour. And if I figure this out, it is going to be 3.3 repeating hours. So Evan drove for 3.3 hours, Darren drove for 3.3 hours. There we go. You have to still do all the analysis that we did at the beginning, finding the x, putting it in, filling out the table. Even if they don't give you a table, do the table. Trust me, do the table. But then after that, once you've got the table, get the equation. Once you've got the equation, solve the equation. Once you've got the solution, figure out what you found. So in this case, I found out Evan's speed, and then answer the question that comes with it. So if I know Evan's speed is 102, I know Darren's speed is 108, Evan's speed is 102, and I can figure out how long the thing took, the 3.3 hours. But the key is you've got to be able to solve it and then understand what you solved for. So hopefully that makes sense. There are questions. There's a worksheet to associate with these. So please take a look, work at that worksheet, and have a marvelous day.